One Take Wonder. Hello everybody, it's Mann-Bryans here from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is sunny, it's a bit windy because we're right down by the harbour front, but we're here for the Jeddah Grand Prix. The circuit is just over my shoulder there. It's going to be an interesting one this weekend. We've got plenty to discuss ahead of time. Media Day starts tomorrow, and then the rest of motorsport coverage will keep you across the whole of the weekend. But before that, another episode of the Outlap, taking on the baton from Qiddiya, who'll be pleased to know I've actually secured the camera this time rather than hanging it from a tree.
If only the video team could see how precariously balanced this highly expensive piece of equipment was.
So let's go into it. First of all, let's talk about Saudi Arabia. We had a briefing recently with Prince Khalid, the Crown Prince, who spoke a lot about F1's future here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He spoke about wanting potentially an F1 team owned by Saudi. He spoke about the future track in Qiddiya. He spoke at length about the position of the Saudi Grand Prix on the calendar. So let's do that in order. Let's start with the team itself. Could we see a Saudi Arabian / PIF owned Formula 1 team? The short answer is of course we could. They've got the money. Prince Khalid said, why not? If we decide we want to do it, it's something we will do. They're in to make money. It's not an easy thing to do in Formula 1, let's be honest, but the chances are, even though there's another team position still to be filled, if you like, even though Cadillac will become the 11th team, there is space for 12th. That's not going to happen, let's be honest. But the chances are, if they wanted to get involved, they could easily go to a team that might be struggling or might want to get out of this sport, take that team over. Let's look at Aston Martin, hypothetically speaking. Their stake is being sold by the Aston Martin owner, Lawrence Stroll, so that'll be an interesting one. Could that be one? We already have, of course, Aramco and Madden are partners of the Aston Martin team. Aramco, obviously the oil company linked to the government here, and Madden are the mining company here in Saudi Arabia, so that would be a logical step. And it's the prestige also, isn't it, of being in Formula 1, of having a team on the grid, of having their own team. It'd be a chance, I suppose, as well to bleed young Saudi Arabian talent in Formula 1. So as the Prince said, why not? If we deem it something we want to try, it's something we'll definitely look into. So let's come around to that one again, potentially in the future. Talking of the future, we head to Jeddah this weekend, just over there. First race here was in 2021. Who can forget that title run in between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton? Bit of an incident here. There was bits of incidents everywhere that year. We don't expect to be in Jeddah forever with Saudi Arabia. There's the Qiddiya Speed Park, which is being built just outside the capital, Riyadh, a few hundred kilometres from here. Now, the interesting with that is there was always a suggestion that the Saudis would push for 2 Grand Prix, but we know it's a 24 race calendar. Stefano Domenicali is sticking by that despite all these new circuits: Thailand, South Korea, Rwanda. We've got Argentina. I could keep listing them. Winners, for the office fans out there. But it is just one of those things, isn't it? That calendar is finite, and they seem dead set to stick on 24. We're going to have the rotational races in Europe. So with that in mind, it does feel, and Prince Khalid did in fact allude to the fact, the chances are when Qiddiya is ready, it will take over the mantle of the host of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from Jeddah. Rather than it being 2 races on the calendar, it will just be one at that new purpose-built circuit in the city of Qiddiya. So we say goodbye to this place. Really quick here, street circuit here, it's quite dangerous here. It's enjoyable, but the Qiddiya facility would be state of the art, let's put it that way. So it would be a destination for Formula 1 for sure. And then the final thing that Prince Khalid spoke about with a group of journalists, including myself, was where Saudi sits on the calendar. Obviously last year it was 2nd race of the campaign. This year it's 4th. Again, it's back to back with Bahrain going first, Saudi going next. It was moved this year because of the timing of Ramadan. It didn't want it to coincide with Ramadan, so Australia took the first place, and we had the other 2 slotting next to it as well before coming over to the Gulf. Essentially Saudi Arabia would like to go back next year, calendar permitting, to that 1 or 2 slot. Now, the interesting thing there is the number 1 slot. Could they go for that? We know Abu Dhabi for years has cherished and very much paid for the privilege of hosting the last round of the championship. We go to Qatar later in the year as well. We can't come here in the summer, it's too hot, it'd be too challenging for the drivers, it'd be impossible for the drivers, let's be honest. So the options are, do you go towards the end of the year or do you go at the very start of the year? I think we see from Australia, whenever we go to Australia as a season opener, there's a different feel, there's a different, I don't know, there's something in the air, isn't there, with the season opener, and I think especially when this remote race moves to Qiddiya, the Saudis might push to make it the opening race of the year. Why not? Why not start in style in Saudi Arabia? Although the purists among us do enjoy going to Melbourne, so it would be a difficult one. Maybe paying for the privilege might have to come into it as well. But again, we spoke earlier on about PIF and the fund here. If they want to have the first race of the season, they have to pay for it. Chances are they will. I think that covers off the first 3 points we were going to talk about today, all those Saudi points. I'm sadly now going to leave the harbour front, but don't worry, viewers, I'm not going to be struggling for somewhere to come to talk about the rest of the issues around this weekend. Let's talk about Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. We could talk about the entire grid, so join me shortly when we carry on with this discussion. Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm going to show you something pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty cool. So a moment ago I spoke to you about Saudi and the future of Saudi motorsport, and I spoke to you from down there on the harbour front. So now I'm 21 floors up, the Shangri-La Hotel. And when I say the Shangri-La Hotel is just overlooking the circuit here, the Jeddah Corniche circuit, and you might not believe me, so let's just do this. Look at that. There it is in all its glory. The Jeddah Corniche circuit ready for this weekend's Formula 1 Grand Prix. So let's talk about this Grand Prix in particular. Lando Norris. It's a weird one to say that a championship leader should and needs to come here and have a performance, needs to put a performance on to almost prove those championship potential in terms of, you know, he won in Australia, that's fine, but it was a wet dry race, and since then he's been off the boil really. He's been shown up, is that fair to say, maybe, by Oscar Piastri in the other McLaren, who's now won 2 races to take 2 pole positions. So it is an interesting one for Lando Norris this weekend. He will want to go into the little break we've got, if you call a fortnight break these days in Formula 1, you probably can, with some momentum, especially heading to Miami, where he picked up that memorable first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix victory last weekend. Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, will just be hoping to repeat the same feat as we had in Bahrain, just over the water there last weekend. So we move on. Red Bull, crisis talks. Christian Horner saying that the wind tunnel correlation with the data they get from the tracks isn't there, which is never a good thing, and not something you can fix. It's not an easy fix, that one, is it? It's not something you do overnight. So Max Verstappen, potentially more frustration for the reigning world champion here, Yuki Tsunoda, who we did find in the end, let's be honest, last time out when I joined you from Osaka. He scored points, his first Red Bull points in Bahrain, and he'll be hoping to follow that up with more here this weekend. We keep going along, and you look at Mercedes, all good for them at the moment. They seem to be better than they thought they were going to be. George Russell is just quietly going about his business, doing a job as the new team leader. Kimi Antonelli, teenager in that car, but putting in grown-up performances. Worth also, I suppose, let's talk about Haas. Another double point score for them. What a performance they're having this season. They're really enjoying themselves, having improved slightly towards the back end of last season. Ollie Behrman going from 20th to 10th in Bahrain, and of course points as well for Esteban Ocon. Not as good a weekend for Williams. They'll be hoping to bounce back because they have started the season well, but it wasn't one for them to remember. Carlos Sainz picking up that damage when he looked like he had the potential to get his first points of the season. So for him, again, coming here, he'll be hoping this is where it all starts for him. And this story's going down the grid. Ferrari still off the pace slightly. Lewis Hamilton still not getting full grips with that Ferrari car, even though we saw him win that sprint race in China. He was the first to admit, and has admitted, he's still adjusting to life with Scuderia. So we come here with so much on up for grabs, and that's why we spoke earlier about the circuits, about what Prince Khalid said about where Saudi Arabia wants to sit on the calendar. You can go later in the year, but a lot of the time in Formula 1 at the moment, with the dominance we've seen from the teams in recent years, everything's sewn up by that point. So you have the prestige of being last on the calendar or towards the back end of the year, but not a lot riding on the race itself. Here the stakes are high. Yes, it's earlier in the year, but when the stakes are high for all the teams involved here this weekend, there's so many talking points up and down the grid. There's talking points in the paddock where we have more on the V10s. We never know what's going to happen. You know, the president of the FIA is probably going to be in attendance. Will he have something to say about the V10s? Will he have something to say about the swearing, about his re-election campaign? It's one of those things where we will have a lot of stories, I think, that we won't be expecting, and some great stories to tell after the race weekend. So join us on motorsport.com across the weekend. We've got fantasy updates. We've got more videos like this, sadly, I'm afraid to tell you. We've got session reports. We've got live blogs starting on the Thursday media day, running all the way through to post-race on Sunday. And then into the week next week, there'll be analysis, there'll be comments, there'll be opinion pieces. So join us on motorsport.com. And thank you for joining me. I'm going to show you again because I can't quite believe I'm still up here. From the 21st floor of the Shangri-La Hotel, overlooking the Jeddah Corniche circuit. Enjoy the race week, everyone, and remember to stick with motorsport.